bright screens in NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Facility lit up the otherwise dark room. Dr. Eric Bennett rubbed his tired eyes and leaned closer to his console. The signal patterns had changed again. For 3 weeks now, these unusual energy bursts had been appearing always from the same distant point beyond the Kuiper Belt. "Are you seeing this?" Eric called out to his colleague across the room. Dr. Lisa Murray nodded, her face illuminated by her own screen. "It's not random noise. Too consistent." Eric ran the pattern through the analysis program again. The result was clear. These were artificial signals. Someone or something was out there getting closer to our solar system. Within hours, the discovery made its way up the chain of command. By the next morning, Captain Samantha Wright of the Earth Defense Fleet was standing in the White House Situation Room, explaining the situation to President Gregory Wells and his Security Council. "The signal patterns suggest a fleet of vessels," Samantha said, pointing to the projection on the wall. "Based on their trajectory and speed, they'll reach Pluto's orbit in approximately 2 weeks." President Wells frowned. "Hostile?" "Unknown, sir," Samantha replied. "But they haven't responded to any of our greeting protocols. We've been broadcasting on all frequencies since the initial detection." Admiral Peter Collins, a tall man with silver hair and a weathered face, stepped forward. "I recommend we deploy the Mars Defense Squadron as our first line. If these visitors have friendly intentions, they can still approach under escort. If not..." "Approved," President Wells said without hesitation. "But no preemptive strikes. We're not starting an interstellar war if we can avoid it." On Mars Outpost Alpha, Lieutenant Olivia Martinez watched the incoming ships on the tracking system. The fleet had slowed as it passed Neptune, but it was still moving steadily inward. Now they could see the vessels clearly. Sleek, curved, ships with glowing blue engines. "They're beautiful," Olivia whispered. "Beautiful or not, they're ignoring all hails," said her commanding officer, Major Ethan Clark. "Admiral Collins is about to issue a formal warning." On the command bridge of the EDF flagship Guardian, Admiral Collins prepared the message. His voice was calm but firm as he spoke into the communication system. "Attention approaching vessels. This is Admiral Peter Collins of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have entered the sovereign territory of the Sol system. We request immediate communication and identification. Failure to respond will be considered a hostile act. Please acknowledge." The silence lasted nearly 10 minutes. Then, finally, a response came through. The translation software worked quickly, converting the alien language. "Primitive humans. This is Commander Ziktar of the glorious NIGMA Empire. We claim this system in the name of Supreme Commander Orthax. Your presence is noted but inconsequential to our mission. Remain passive and you may be permitted to serve." The Admiral's face hardened. "Commander Ziktar, we do not recognize your claim. The Sol system is not available for taking. Reverse course immediately or we will be forced to demonstrate our defensive capabilities." The response was immediate this time. "Your posturing amuses us, human. Your species has barely left its cradle. Our scans detect no meaningful weapons or defenses. The NIGMA Empire has conquered civilizations far more advanced than yours." At the Mars outpost, Olivia watched as the NIGMA ships adjusted their course, not away from the solar system but directly toward the red planet. "They're scanning us," she reported, looking at the sensor readings. "Deep penetrative scans of our base and the defense platforms." Major Clark nodded grimly. "They're assessing our capabilities." "They're severely underestimating us," Olivia said. "Let's hope that works to our advantage," Clark replied. Back on Earth, the United Defense Council gathered for an emergency session. Representatives from every major nation sat around the circular table, with President Wells at the head. "The NIGMA ships have deployed small probes toward Earth," reported Captain Samantha Wright. "Our warnings have been ignored completely." Secretary of Defense Frank Howard slammed his fist on the table. "We need to show them we're serious. Take out one of those probes." Dr. Catherine Powell, head of xenobiology, shook her head. "A direct attack could escalate the situation unnecessarily." "What about the Vargon tech?" suggested Admiral Collins. "A demonstration rather than destruction." President Wells looked thoughtful. "Explain." The technology we reverse-engineered from the Vargan crash in 2089, Collins said. We could disable one of their probes without destroying it. Show them we have capabilities they don't expect. Do it, Wells ordered. Major Daniel Harrison led the interception squadron from the lunar base. 6 sleek fighters approached the nearest. NIGMA probe, a spherical device about 3 meters in diameter. Stay in formation, Daniel instructed his pilots. Activate Vargon disruptors on my mark. The fighters circled the probe, which seemed to take no notice of them. Now, blue energy rippled from the Earth fighters. The probe suddenly stopped, its lights flickering and then going dark as it drifted powerless in space. Capture team, you're up, Daniel said. A larger vessel moved in, deploying a containment field around the disabled probe and drawing it inside. On the NIGMA command ship, Commander Zektar received the news with confusion. Impossible. Our preliminary scans showed no such technology. His science officer looked equally perplexed. The humans appear more advanced than our intelligence suggested. It changes nothing, Zektar replied. A minor setback. Proceed with the deployment of the remaining probes. Supreme Commander Orthax expects results. The captured probe arrived at the secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Eric Bennett and Dr. Catherine Powell led the examination team. The technology is impressively advanced, Eric noted as they carefully disassembled the device. But their arrogance is their weakness. They didn't even encrypt their data storage. Catherine pointed to a holographic display they had extracted from the probe. Look at this. They're cataloging Earth for colonization. They've marked population centers, resource deposits, everything. They're planning an invasion, Eric said grimly. President Wells stood before the global broadcast system, his face resolute. His message would be transmitted not only to every corner of Earth but directly to the approaching NIGMA fleet. To the NIGMA Empire and Supreme Commander Orthax. We have examined your probe and understand your intentions. Earth is not for taking. Our technological capabilities are greater than you believe. This is your final warning. Leave our system in peace or face the consequences of your actions. The response came from Supreme Commander Orthax himself, a tall, gray-skinned being with multiple eyes that blinked independently of each other. Your defiance is noted, humans. Your extinction will be swift. The NIGMA Empire has conquered hundreds of worlds across 12 galaxies. Your primitive displays do not impress us. What Orthax didn't know was that Earth had been developing quantum displacement technology in secret for decades. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blackwood prepared the experimental QD warships for their first combat. Deployment. All systems online, reported his second-in-command. The fleet is ready. Ryan nodded, his expression serious. The NIGMA have made their choice. Now they'll learn why Earth's warnings should never be ignored. Admiral Collins stood on the bridge of the Guardian watching the holographic display of the solar system. The NIGMA ships continued their advance despite Earth's warnings. He turned to his communications officer. Connect me to Major Harrison. Daniel's face appeared on the screen moments later. Admiral, it's time for our demonstration, Major. Select a small target, one of their secondary vessels. Disable it using the Vargan technology. Make sure they understand this is intentional, not a lucky shot. Daniel nodded. Yes, sir. Harrison out. In the darkness of space near the Mars orbit, Daniel's squadron approached a NIGMA scout ship. The alien vessel was sleek and predatory, with sharp angles and glowing blue engines. Target locked, reported Lieutenant Alan Foster from his fighter. Waiting for your command. All ships activate Vargon disruptors on my mark, Daniel said. 3, 2, 1, mark. The 6 Earth fighters released a synchronized pulse of blue energy. The wave washed over the NIGMA scout ship. Its engines flickered and died. The lights across its hull went dark. Target disabled, Alan confirmed. Send the message, Daniel ordered. From the lead fighter, a communication beam shot toward the main NIGMA fleet. The message was simple. This is what happens when you ignore Earth's warnings. The next demonstration will not be so gentle. On the NIGMA command ship, Commander Zikatar watched in disbelief as the scout ship drifted powerless through space. How is this possible? He demanded. These humans should be primitives. His science officer studied the readings. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database. It bypassed our shields completely. Zikatar's expression darkened. Inform Supreme Commander Orthax. We may need to adjust our approach. Back on Earth, Dr. Catherine Powell and her team worked tirelessly in the underground laboratory. The captured NIGMA probe had yielded valuable information. "Look at this," Catherine said, pointing to a complex display of alien text and symbols. "They've conquered 17 worlds before coming here. Their standard procedure is to overwhelm the local defenses, then establish control of key resources." Eric Bennett frowned as he studied the data. "They classify Earth as a Category 3 world. What does that mean?" "Limited space travel, no significant defensive capabilities," Catherine explained. "They think we're easy prey." Eric smiled slightly. Their mistake. In the secure bunker beneath the White House, President Wells met with his closest advisors. The intelligence from the captured probe was concerning. "The NIGMA empire is vast," said Secretary Howard. "Their technology is advanced and they have overwhelming numbers. But they don't know about our quantum displacement technology," Admiral Collins countered. "They're expecting a conventional defense." President Wells nodded slowly. "It's time to reveal more of our capabilities. Not everything, just enough to make them reconsider." Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blackwood stood in the massive underwater hangar, looking at the experimental QD warships. Years of secret development had produced vessels unlike anything seen before. They didn't require conventional propulsion. They could simply disappear from one point in space and appear at another. "Beautiful, aren't they?" said a voice behind him. Ryan turned to see Captain Nicole Bradley, the commander of the QD fleet. "The finest ships ever built," Ryan agreed, "but untested in actual combat." "That's about to change," Nicole said. "We've received orders to prepare for deployment. One ship only, the Defiant, just enough to send a message." The NIGMA fleet had now passed Mars and was approaching Earth's moon. From their ships, they launched a wave of probes toward Earth. "Our colonization probes are away," reported Ziktar to Supreme Commander Orthax. "They will begin cataloging the prime territories for our first settlements." Orthax's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "What about the human resistance?" "Minimal," Ziktar assured him. "They disabled one scout ship, but we have thousands. Their defenses are scattered and primitive. Do not underestimate them," Orthax warned. Other species appeared weak until cornered. As the NIGMA probes entered Earth's atmosphere, Chief Engineer Morgan Stanley activated the planetary defense grid from her command center in the Andes Mountains. Invisible until activated, thousands of defense platforms around the planet powered up. "Grid at full power," she reported to Admiral Collins. "Targeting the NIGMA probes. Capture 3 for study," Collins ordered. "Destroy the rest." Across the skies of Earth, beams of golden energy reached up, touching the descending probes. Most exploded instantly into harmless dust. 3 were enveloped in containment fields and drawn down to secure facilities. In lunar orbit, the NIGMA fleet registered the sudden loss of their probes. "Impossible," Ziktar exclaimed. "Our scans showed no orbital defense system." His tactical officer worked frantically at his station. "The system was shielded, completely undetectable until activated. The humans have technology we didn't account for." For the first time, doubt crept into Ziktar's mind. He opened a channel to Supreme Commander Orthax. "The humans have destroyed our probes. They appear to have concealed defensive capabilities." Orthax's voice was cold. "Then destroy their defenses. Show them the might of the NIGMA Empire." The NIGMA fleet moved into attack formation, their weapons charged, powerful energy cannons, capable of reducing cities to ash. "They're preparing to attack," reported Captain Bradley from the Defiant, hidden behind the moon. "Wait for them to fire," came Admiral Collins's voice. "Let them commit fully." The NIGMA ships fired as one, a devastating barrage aimed at Earth's defense grid. The energy beams cut through space toward the planet. "Now," ordered Collins. Captain Bradley activated the quantum displacement drive. The Defiant vanished from its position behind the moon and reappeared directly in the path of the NIGMA attack. A shimmering shield extended from the ship, absorbing the entire barrage. On the NIGMA command ship, alarms blared. A ship appeared from nowhere, the tactical officer shouted. It's absorbing our attack. Zikatar stared in disbelief at the small human vessel that had somehow intercepted their combined firepower. Impossible. No shield technology could withstand that much energy. The Defiant began to glow with the absorbed energy. Then, in a blinding flash, it redirected the attack back at the NIGMA fleet. The returned energy wasn't destructive. Instead, it disabled the weapon systems of 20 NIGMA ships simultaneously. Message from the human vessel, reported the communications officer. On the main screen, Captain Nicole Bradley appeared. Her expression was calm, but determined. NIGMA Empire, you have fired upon Earth after multiple warnings. This was your final mistake. We have absorbed and redirected your attack as a demonstration of mercy. There will not be another. You have 6 hours to withdraw from our solar system completely. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war and respond accordingly. The transmission ended. For the first time in the history of the NIGMA Empire, Supreme Commander Orthax felt genuine concern. These humans, he said slowly, are not what we expected. Zikatar looked at the disabled ships, then at the small human vessel that had caused such damage. What are your orders, Supreme Commander? Orthax was silent for a long moment. Prepare our main fleet. If they have one such ship, they may have more. We must strike before they can deploy them all. It would be the NIGMA Empire's final fatal mistake. The 6-hour deadline passed. The NIGMA fleet had not retreated. Instead, they had called for reinforcements. Hundreds of new ships emerged from the darkness of space, joining the invasion force. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Collins watched the growing enemy fleet with a grim expression. They've made their choice, he said quietly. Activate the planetary defense grid at full capacity and launch the QD fleet. Throughout the solar system, hidden bases activated. From underwater facilities on Earth, from secret lunar caves, and from camouflaged asteroid stations, the quantum displacement vessels emerged. 30 ships in total, each carrying technology the NIGMA Empire couldn't begin to understand. Captain Nicole Bradley stood on the bridge of the Defiant, the flagship of the QD fleet. Her crew worked silently at their stations, faces tense but determined. All ships report ready, Captain, said her first officer, Commander Ryan Blackwood. Nicole nodded. Commence Operation Sunflare. The QD ships vanished simultaneously, disappearing from their launch positions. On the NIGMA command ship, Supreme Commander Orthax watched the approaching Earth with satisfaction. His reinforcements had arrived, bringing the invasion fleet to over 1,000 vessels. The humans have had their chance, he told Commander Zikatar. Begin the attack. No mercy. Yes, Supreme Com. Zikatar stopped mid-sentence, staring at the tactical display. Sir, vessels are appearing throughout our formation. The QD fleet had reappeared, not in a defensive line, but scattered throughout the NIGMA armada. Each Earth vessel was positioned strategically near key NIGMA command ships. Open fire, Orthax ordered. The NIGMA weapons blazed, energy beams and plasma torpedoes launching toward the Earth vessels. But the QD ships simply phased out of normal space, letting the attacks pass harmlessly through their previous positions, before rematerializing elsewhere. Impossible! Zikatar shouted. No technology can— Evidently it can, Orthax cut him off. Adjust targeting protocols, predict their movements. But the Earth ships didn't follow any pattern. They appeared and disappeared at will, striking with precision before vanishing again. On the Defiant, Nicole gave the order. All ships deploy sunflare weapons. From each QD vessel, a brilliant golden light erupted. The energy wasn't explosive or destructive in the conventional sense. Instead, it flowed like liquid, seeping through the hulls of the NIGMA ships and disabling their systems from within. Ship after ship went dark, their engines and weapons dead, life support systems barely functioning. The mighty NIGMA armada drifted, helplessly in space. Status report. Orthax demanded as the lights on his own command ship flickered. 80% of the fleet disabled, Ziktar reported, his voice shaking. Our shields cannot stop whatever this energy is. It simply passes through. For the first time in his long life, Supreme Commander Orthax felt fear. These humans were not the primitives his intelligence had described. They wielded technology beyond even the NIGMA Empire's understanding. Open communication with the humans, he ordered. We must negotiate. Before Ziktar could comply, the main screen activated on its own. President Gregory Wells appeared, his expression stern. Supreme Commander Orthax, you were warned. You chose to ignore our warnings. Now you will witness the consequences of that choice. The screen changed to show an image of Earth. A ripple of energy spread from the planet, an expanding golden wave that washed over the crippled NIGMA fleet. What is happening? Orthax demanded. Ziktar checked his instruments. It's not an attack, it's a scan. They're copying all our data. Navigation charts, Empire records, everything. On Earth, Chief Engineer Morgan Stanley monitored the data flow from her station. We're getting everything, she reported to President Wells. Locations of all NIGMA colonies, their homeworld, technical specifications of their ships and weapons. Dr. Eric Bennett analyzed the incoming information quickly. According to this, they've conquered 17 populated worlds. Most are still inhabited by the native species, forced to work as slaves. President Wells turned to Admiral Collins. How soon can the QD fleet reach these worlds? With the NIGMA navigational data immediately, Collins replied. Captain Bradley can begin liberation operations while we secure our own system. In space, the NIGMA command ship remained operational, though most of its weapons were disabled. Orthax watched in growing horror as the Earth vessels began to disappear one by one. Where are they going? He asked. His science officer worked frantically at his console. Based on their trajectory data before they vanish, they're heading toward our empire, to our controlled worlds. Orthax slammed his fist against his command chair. Impossible. Even with our navigational data, it would take them weeks to reach the nearest NIGMA world. Not with their displacement technology, Ziktar said quietly. They could arrive almost instantly. The realization struck Orthax like a physical blow. His empire, built over centuries of conquest, could be undone in days by these humans and their impossible technology. We must warn the homeworld, he said. Order all remaining functional ships to return to Xantoria immediately. The surviving NIGMA vessels that could still move began to withdraw, accelerating away from Earth as fast as their engines would allow. On Praxis 4, one of the first worlds conquered by the NIGMA Empire, the enslaved Praxians toiled in the mineral mines. Their once beautiful world had been stripped of resources for nearly 30 years. The native Praxians, tall beings with forearms and silvery skin, had lost all hope of freedom until the sky lit up with golden light. The Earth vessel, Intrepid, appeared in orbit, quickly followed by 3 more QD ships. Major Daniel Harrison led the liberation team to the planet's surface, targeting the main NIGMA control center. The NIGMA guards were completely unprepared for an attack. Their security relied on the fact that no enemy could possibly reach a world so deep within their empire. They were wrong. Daniel's team moved through the facility with precision, disabling the NIGMA personnel with non-lethal weapons and freeing the Praxian leaders from their cells. We come from Earth, Daniel explained to the confused aliens. We're here to liberate your world from the NIGMA Empire. The Praxian elder, Nexor, could hardly believe what he was hearing. You defeated the NIGMA? How is this possible? They underestimated us, Daniel said simply. They won't make that mistake again. As the liberation of Praxis 4 continued, similar operations began on other conquered worlds. The QD fleet spread throughout NIGMA space, appearing without warning, freeing enslaved populations and neutralizing NIGMA control centers. On each world, they left communication equipment to coordinate with Earth and with each other. The foundation of the Galactic Confederation was being laid. Back in the solar system, the crippled NIGMA invasion fleet drifted helplessly. President Wells addressed the captive Supreme Commander one final time. Your empire is being dismantled. Orthax, your slaves freed, your conquest ended. You should have heeded our warning. Orthax could only watch in silence as his life's work crumbled around him. The NIGMA Empire had finally encountered a species they couldn't conquer, and it would cost them everything. News of Earth's victory spread quickly across the 17 conquered worlds. The NIGMA communication network, once used to control their vast empire, now carried messages of liberation. Captain Nicole Bradley coordinated the efforts from her ship, the Defiant, which jumped between worlds using quantum displacement. On the planet Teleris, Lieutenant Commander Jackson Hughes led the Earth forces. The native Tellarans, bird-like beings with feathered crests, had been forced to build weapons for the NIGMA military for over 50 years. The main control center is just ahead, Jackson told his team, as they moved through the Tellaran capital, city. Remember, we disable the NIGMA, but we don't kill unless absolutely necessary. The Earth soldiers moved silently, their armor allowing them to blend into the shadows. When they reached the control center, Jackson activated a small device. Golden energy spread through the building, disabling all NIGMA technology. Inside, the NIGMA guards panicked as their weapons stopped working. Jackson's team entered easily, subduing the confused aliens and freeing the Tellaran officials who had been held prisoner. Your world is yours again, Jackson told the Tellaran leader, a female named Kirith. The NIGMA Empire is falling. Kirith's feathers fluttered with emotion. How can we ever repay Earth for this gift? By joining us, Jackson said. We're building something new. A galactic confederation where all species are equal, where no empire can ever conquer another world again. Back on Earth, Dr. Catherine Powell studied the data from the conquered worlds. She had discovered something troubling. The NIGMA technology is becoming more aggressive, she told President Wells and Admiral Collins in the underground command center. Their ships are adapting to our quantum displacement fields. Can they block our QD jumps? Admiral Collins asked. Not yet, Catherine replied. But they're learning. Their homeworld, Xantoria, has set up a defensive grid specifically designed to detect and potentially disrupt quantum displacement. President Wells frowned. Then we need to act quickly, before they can fully adapt. At that moment, Captain Bradley's face appeared on the main screen. Mr. President, we've liberated 15 of the 17 conquered worlds, but the NIGMA are falling back to their homeworld. They're gathering their remaining forces for a final stand. What about the remaining 2 worlds? Wells asked. Heavily fortified, Nicole reported. The NIGMA have established defensive grids similar to the one on their homeworld. We need a new approach. Dr. Eric Bennett stepped forward. I have an idea, sir. The Sunflare weapon was designed to disable technology, but with some modifications we could create a quantum displacement wave that affects a much larger area. Would it harm the native populations? Wells asked. No, sir, Eric assured him. It only affects artificial technology, specifically NIGMA systems. It would essentially phase their weapons and defenses partially out of our reality, rendering them useless. Wells nodded slowly. Develop it, and prepare the fleet for a direct assault on the NIGMA homeworld. On Xantoria, Supreme Commander Orthax addressed the High Council of the NIGMA Empire. The Grand Chamber, once a place of celebration for their conquests, now felt like a tomb. The humans have liberated most of our subject worlds, Orthax admitted. Their technology allows them to appear anywhere in our empire without warning. How is this possible? Demanded Councillor Vexnar, the oldest member of the High Council. Our intelligence said the humans were barely spacefaring. Our intelligence was wrong, Orthax said simply. The humans kept their true capabilities hidden. They allowed us to underestimate them. Can we stop them? Asked another councillor. Orthax hesitated. Our scientists are developing countermeasures against their quantum displacement technology. But we need time. Time we do not have, Vexnar said grimly, pointing to the alert flashing on the main display. Their fleet has been detected approaching Xantoria, in the darkness of space near Xantoria, the Earth fleet emerged from quantum displacement. 25 ships in total led by the Defiant. NIGMA defense grid is active, reported Ryan Blackwood from his station. They're attempting to lock onto our quantum signature. Nicole nodded. Deploy the QD wave on my mark. On Earth, Dr. Eric Bennett monitored the operation from his laboratory. The wave generator is at full power, Captain. But remember, this is untested technology. The effects could be more extensive than we calculated. Understood, Doctor, Nicole replied. But we've run out of options. The NIGMA must be stopped here and now. She turned to her weapons officer. Activate the quantum displacement wave. A ripple of golden energy spread from the Defiant, expanding outward in all directions. As it touched the NIGMA defense platforms, they seemed to flicker, becoming transparent before solidifying again. But something had changed. They were no longer firing. It's working, Ryan reported. The NIGMA weapons and defenses are phasing partially out of our reality. They can't target us anymore. On Xantoria, panic spread through the NIGMA command center as their defensive systems failed. Screens showed their weapons firing, but the energy simply passed through the Earth ships without effect. What have they done? Orthax demanded. His science officer looked up from his instruments, fear evident in his eyes. They've shifted our technology into a different phase of reality. Our weapons still exist, still fire, but they no longer interact with normal spacetime. Orthax stared at the screens in disbelief. His mighty empire, built on superior military technology, had been rendered powerless by human ingenuity. Open a channel to their fleet, he ordered. I wish to negotiate. But before the communication could be established, Earth ships appeared in orbit around Xantoria, not in attack formation, but in a clear display of power. A message was broadcast. Planet-wide, people of Xantoria, came President Wells' voice. Your empire is no more. Your conquered worlds have been liberated. Your military power has been neutralized. We offer you a choice. Join the new Galactic Confederation as equals, or remain isolated on your homeworld, stripped of all spacefaring capability. In the NIGMA High Council chamber, silence fell as the humans' terms were presented. Centuries of imperial dominance had come to an end in a matter of weeks. We have no choice, Councillor Vexnar said finally. We must accept their terms. Orthax looked out at the Earth ships visible through the chamber's great window. How had it come to this? How had the mighty NIGMA Empire fallen to a species they had dismissed as primitive? The answer was simple and bitter. They had ignored Earth's warning, and now the NIGMA Empire as they knew it no longer existed. 1 year after the defeat of the NIGMA Empire, representatives from 20 worlds gathered on Earth. The Grand Assembly Hall in New Geneva had been built specifically for this historic occasion. Delegates from each liberated planet, along with EU, humans, and even a small group of NIGMA, sat together in the circular chamber. President Gregory Wells stood at the center podium, addressing the gathered species. Today we formalize what began in the aftermath of conflict. The Galactic Confederation is no longer just an idea. It is now a reality. The Earth delegation, led by Admiral Peter Collins and Dr. Catherine Powell, watched with pride as representatives from each world signed the Confederation Charter. The document established principles of mutual defense, free trade, cultural exchange, and technological cooperation. Captain Nicole Bradley, recently promoted to Admiral for her role in the NIGMA conflict, stood with her former crew from the Defiant. They had become heroes throughout known space, their names celebrated on 17 liberated worlds. Did you ever imagine it would come to this? Ryan Blackwood asked her quietly, watching as a feathered Teleran signed the charter. Nicole shook her head. When we first detected the NIGMA ships, we were just trying to protect Earth. We never dreamed we'd end up creating a galactic alliance. The NIGMA delegation sat in the far corner of the chamber. They were not yet full members of the Confederation. That privilege would be earned over time. Their leader, Councillor Vexnar, had replaced Supreme Commander Orthax after the former leader was removed from power by his own people. Vexnar approached Nicole during a break in the proceedings. "Admiral Bradley," he said, his voice carrying none of the arrogance that had once been typical of NIGMA speech. "I wish to express my personal gratitude." Nicole raised an eyebrow. "Gratitude? For defeating your empire? For saving my species?" "From itself," Vexnar replied. "The path of conquest was destroying the NIGMA. We had forgotten our original values, our arts, our sciences that weren't devoted to warfare. Now we have a chance to rediscover who we truly are." Nicole nodded slowly. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Counselor." Across the room, Dr. Eric Bennett spoke with representatives from several worlds about the new quantum displacement network being established. The technology that had won the war was now being adapted for peaceful purposes, allowing instant travel and communication between Confederation worlds. "The network will connect all member worlds," Eric explained. "Travel that once took years will now be instantaneous." "Will you share the technology freely?" asked a Praxian scientist named Keltor. "Not the ability to build it, not yet," Eric admitted. "But the use of it, yes. Earth will maintain the network until all member worlds have proven themselves trustworthy." This was the compromise that had been reached. Earth would maintain certain technological advantages while gradually sharing others. It was a position of power, but one the humans were determined to use responsibly. Major Daniel Harrison, now Colonel Harrison, had been appointed head of the Confederation Defense Force. His experience liberating multiple worlds had made him the natural choice. He met with military leaders from each species, planning joint exercises and establishing protocols. "The key is cooperation," Daniel told them. "Each of our species has different strengths, different abilities. Together, we're stronger than any empire could ever be." Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, who had been among the first to spot the NIGMA, ships from Mars Outpost Alpha, now worked with the diplomatic corps. She had shown a natural talent for understanding alien psychology during the Liberation campaign. The NIGMA believe they can rejoin galactic society as equals within 10 years, she reported to President Wells. "They're dismantling their war machine entirely, converting their factories to civilian production." Wells nodded. "And the other species? Are they accepting the NIGMA's presence here?" "Cautiously," Olivia replied. "The wounds are still fresh, but they recognize that holding on to hatred only leads to more conflict." As the formal signing ceremony concluded, a memorial was unveiled in the center of the chamber. A simple holographic display showed the solar system with a clear message written beneath it. "They ignored our warning. Don't make the same mistake. It would serve as a reminder, not a threat, but a lesson learned at great cost." That evening, the Earth delegation gathered on the observation deck of the Geneva Tower. The stars shone brightly above them, no longer just distant points of light, but homes to their new allies. "What happens now?" asked Dr. Catherine Powell. Admiral Collins looked out at the night sky. "Now the real work begins. Building something that lasts is harder than winning a war." "The NIGMA Empire no longer exists," President Wells said. "But neither does Earth as we knew it. We've all been changed by this encounter." Captain Nicole Bradley, who had seen more of the galaxy than perhaps any human in history, nodded in agreement. "We thought we were protecting our planet. Instead, we ended up protecting the whole galaxy from tyranny." "And the quantum displacement technology?" Eric Bennett asked. "Do we continue developing it?" "Carefully," Wells replied. "With great power comes great responsibility. We won't make the same mistake the NIGMA did, believing that technological superiority gives us the right to rule others." As they spoke, a shooting star streaked across the sky, an omen perhaps of the bright future ahead. Across the galaxy on Xantoria, the former NIGMA homeworld, changes were already visible. The massive military shipyards had been converted to civilian use. The Imperial Palace, once forbidden to ordinary citizens, was now a center for art and learning. In the former Supreme Commander's private garden, Counselor Vexnar sat with a group of young NIGMA children. He was teaching them the old stories, tales from before the Empire's days of conquest. "But why did we attack other worlds?" asked one child. "Why didn't we just make friends with them?" Vexnar sighed. Because we forgot the most important lesson. In the universe, strength isn't measured by how many you can conquer. It's measured by how many you can unite. The child considered this. Like the humans did? Yes, Vexnar said, looking up at the stars. Like the humans did. In the vast darkness of space, the Defiant cruised along the border of known space. Though peace had come, exploration continued. Admiral Bradley stood on the bridge, watching as her crew prepared for another quantum jump. New coordinates locked in, Admiral, reported Commander Blackwood. Ready to jump on your command, Nicole smiled. Take us out there, Commander. Let's see what else the universe has to offer. The Defiant vanished in a flash of golden light, continuing the journey that had begun when a proud empire had ignored Earth's warning and discovered too late that humanity was not to be underestimated.